He's been on your show. He's been on AntiWar, this and that. He was, of course, right before Iraq, as were we veteran intelligence professionals for Sanity. We take no solace in that. Nobody listened. But, it's nice to have a record of having been right on an important issue such as this. Now, Scott has written a very good piece. I'm not sure you all picked it up, but it was on Truth Dig 2 days ago.
Yeah, actually, we linked to it yesterday.
Okay.
And actually, I interviewed him, and my interview is at the top of the page of antiwar.com right now. It's from last Friday, and we discussed all the very same things in his Truth Dig article there.
Yeah. Well, that would be your best ammunition, because Scott knows what he's talking about, and he's been saying this for some time. Suffice it from my end to point out that our lines of communication, that is the lines of communication and resupply that the U.S. military uses for its troops in Iraq, it goes to Kuwait up through Baghdad and elsewhere. Those lines are incredibly vulnerable to interdiction. So what happens? What happens if the balloon goes up? Well, we have these Revolutionary Guards troops there just across the border in Iran. I don't think for a moment that they wouldn't be sent en masse into that part of Iraq, cooperating with the Shia in the area to obliterate those lines of communication. What will happen? Well, there's no way to resupply our troops. There's no way to get food or ammunition, water, anything else. There's no way. You can't do it by air, okay? And the result will be we have 150,000 troops in there now, roughly. So half of those, the ones above the line that we've cut off, the others could retreat to Kuwait. Half of those would be taken hostage. So we're talking about not 52 hostages in the U.S. Embassy in Tehran anymore. You're talking about 60, 70,000 U.S. troops taken hostage. And so what does the United States military do? Well, without any troops, it's really, really hard to do anything. As an infantry officer, I think I know a little bit about that. You can't fix this with the Air Force, okay? So what do? Well, back here in Washington, we know what to do. We have these mini nukes. So we threaten the Iranians and say, if you don't stop, you don't withdraw, we're going to use these mini nukes. And the Iranians say, sorry, we're not going to withdraw. Then what happens, Scott? Then what happens? This is an incredibly volatile situation. I can't believe that people like the leaders in Congress don't recognize it to be so. John Conyers saying, for example, just let Bush attack Iran, then we'll impeach him. That betrays an incredible ignorance with respect to what that would really mean if we or the Israelis kind of forced it upon us to attack Iran. So this is big stuff, and I've been involved in a good bit of big stuff since Vietnam, and I've never seen a situation where our country has gotten into the kind of situation it is now, all because of a misguided notion that what George Washington himself warned about, namely entangling alliances, what he called passionate attachments by one country to the perceived needs of another, where that could get us into such trouble that we'd have a major war, a third front on our hands within the next couple of months.
Well, it seems like a lot of things are coming together, too. Tell me, how seriously do you take Maliki's statements that really he wants the U.S. out? I know I talked with Patrick Coburn, and he said, well, you got to understand, the Supreme Islamic Council Dawa Party types still need America. And so they'll talk a big game, but ultimately they're going to go along with the permanent basing program. On the other hand, it's been a few weeks since I talked to him, and it sort of seems like they mean it, and that they've decided that the Badr Corps is strong enough with the support of Iran that they don't need us anymore, and that they want us out. What do you say to that? Is that part of what's going on here? Is America might actually have to get out of there or face war against the Shia?
You're quoting Patrick Coburn there?
Yeah, well, yeah. Coburn, it was Coburn who told me that he thinks they'll eventually go along because they still need our guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's what I've always thought. And I have great respect for Patrick. But as you point out, this statement has been out there for 2 weeks now. Maliki clearly is under great domestic pressure, and the Iranians. The Iranians and the Shiites that they're close to are exerting great pressure on him. So I see it as a very important development. Whether or not we gauge that Maliki is going to follow through on this, my concern is the Israelis don't have any choice. They have to assume that he's going to. That means very few U.S. troops in Iraq next year. That means we Israelis, while Bush and Cheney are still around, have to do something now to get the United States more embedded, pardon the expression, more embedded, more deeply involved in this area of the world so that we can count on them to be around for the next couple of years no matter who wins the election.
Mm-hmm. Now, I heard Seymour Hersh tell Terry Gross on NPR that his understanding is that Cheney is opposed to Israel starting it. Cheney wants the U.S. to just go ahead and do it because it'll be all our fault anyway, and we'd have to finish the job anyway, and that kind of thing. Then, of course, there's the report in the Sunday Times from last weekend that Bush has given the Israelis an amber light to go ahead and get prepared to start the war. Do you think that's how it's going to play out? I guess in your blog entry at antiwar.com, you say that you expect something to start in September or October before the election.
Yeah, what I say in this latest version is that I think it's a feckless exercise to debate whether the Israelis or Cheney Abrams would start this thing. They should be looked upon as hand in glove. I think the Israelis, whether or not they get an explicit little email from Cheney saying, okay, amber really means green, whether they have it or not, they have every reasonable expectation, Congress and the media in our country being what they are, that if they started, Cheney and Bush will have to come in and end it. So it's a hand-in-glove sort of thing. I think disputing or arguing about who's going to actually fire the first shot is really meaningless because both will be in. I think Israel is almost certainly going to be involved unless Cheney has his way, unless they're right about Cheney, because I could see some merit in Israel trying to keep their hands off this kind of thing rather than suffer immediate retaliation from Iran. But do read Scott Ritter's piece and his interview with you, Scott, because there's a lot of information there, and it shows how parlous the situation is. It's about the only place you could find this kind of thing.
Yeah, truthdig.com is where that was, and you just have to imagine the Persian Gulf there. They call it the Persian Gulf for a reason there. That one half of it is Iran, and on the other side is all oil interests, Qatar and Bahrain and all these places that seem to be within range of Iranian missiles where they could cause severe economic damage in the Gulf there, in American allied states.
Yeah, and if you remember when Mullen got up for his press conference, he kind of swallowed hard when he was asked about the Iranian threat to close the straits. Could they do that? Well, he swallowed hard, and he said, "Well, we could reopen them." Okay, well, that is very, very revealing because it indicates that our top military official acknowledges that Iran has the capability to close the straits. And to reopen them, well, read Scott Ritter's piece to see the incredible investment of men and equipment and weaponry that would be necessary to, quote, reopen the straits, end quote.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm sorry, if I can just keep you another minute here, Ray. I'm already over time, so I figure I might as well push it.
No problem.
One of the themes that's happened here lately in the last year or so, and I'm thinking specifically of the reporting of the great Gareth Porter from IPS News, is that the reasons why the military doesn't want to do it become Cheney's arguments for doing it. And I'm thinking about there was the article by Nancy Youssef in McClatchy newspapers last August where Cheney wanted to do strikes against the Quds Force because he was accusing them of backing Sadr's Mahdi army and was trying to use that as an excuse. And according to Gareth Porter, the military came back and had a study that said, well, the problem with that is the theory of escalation dominance, and the Iranians will have too much of a capability to control the level of escalation. Now, it's not like they could ever conquer America, but they could control the situation on the battlefield to too great an extent. The Americans want to be able to dictate every move on the chessboard, and they worried that this could get out of control. And Cheney said, aha, see, the Iranians are running things in Iraq, and the Iranians are a giant threat, and that's why we have to bomb them.